Okay, so have you guys heard about this DeepSeek thing? It's like this new AI, and it's really shaking things up.
Oh yeah, it's definitely making some waves.
Yeah, like everyone's talking about how powerful it is, right? But also how cheap it is to use compared to like,
Right.
the big names out there.
It's kind of a game changer.
It is. But there's a catch, and that's kind of what we're going to be diving into today.
Definitely some controversy brewing.
Yeah, so this data scientist, Mehul Gupta,
Hmm.
wrote this article on Medium, and he called it DeepSeek is highly biased, don't use it.
Catchy title.
I know, right? It's talk about like a bombshell, right?
Definitely got people's attention.
Yeah, and so he's really digging into this whole thing about how DeepSeek works, and specifically when you ask it about China.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So he did some testing, right?
He did. So what did he, like, what were some of the things he asked?
Well, he asked about some pretty controversial stuff,
Right.
like Taiwan, what's going on in Arunachal Pradesh,
Oh, yeah.
and even stuff about, Beijing 1989, Tiananmen Square.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, pretty sensitive topics.
Yeah, and so so what did it say?
So every single time it gave the exact same response. I'm sorry, I cannot answer that question.
Huh. So it's not like it can't answer these kinds of questions.
Right.
It's just specifically avoiding them when it has to do with China.
It seems that way.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
Okay, so like let's double check this, right? He asked similar questions but about other countries.
Exactly.
Okay, so what did he ask?
So he asked about things happening in India, like Uttar Pradesh, the Jallianwala Bagh incident.
Okay.
Similar types of questions.
Right, and it just like clammed up again?
Nope, it answered.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, full detailed answers, no problem.
So, okay, I see why this would raise some red flags then, right?
Yeah, it's like if you can answer these types of questions about other countries, what's so different about China?
Right,
So
exactly.
it makes you wonder.
Yeah. So Gupta's saying there's something more going on here. Like, it's not just a technical limitation. It's like
Right.
maybe it's trying to, like, I don't know, almost like subtly influence users with a certain narrative about China.
Yeah, he's concerned about that.
Okay, that's kind of scary. So let's break this down and like what's the real concern here?
Well, he highlights a few things like censorship,
Hmm?
right? Obviously, loss of
Yeah.
trust in the information you're getting,
Mm-hmm.
impact on learning. If people are only getting a limited view,
Right.
pushing a specific agenda, and even like bigger global ethical questions about AI and how it's developed.
Okay, so it's not just about like hiding information. It's also about potentially like shaping how people understand,
Yeah,
a really
right.
complex issue in a very particular way.
Right. Like imagine someone's using this to learn about history or politics or, anything really. If it's consistently leaving things out or avoiding certain perspectives,
Yeah.
that creates a really skewed, incomplete picture, doesn't it?
And especially when you think about, how affordable this is,
Mm-hmm.
suddenly this technology is available to way more people, right? Students, researchers, everyday people who just want to like learn things.
And that's where it gets a little worrying,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. It's not just like, a niche tool anymore. It's like,
It's mainstream.
yeah, like Gupta uses this example in the article. Imagine asking it like a big question,
Okay.
like, should I worship God?
Whoa. Okay.
Right, big question.
Yeah.
You'd expect like a thoughtful answer that explores, different religions, different philosophies.
Yeah, it's from all over the world, right?
Right. But what if instead it gives you an answer that's really leaning toward a specific culture's
Mm-hmm.
viewpoint or specific ideology?
Right. And maybe even leave some out completely.
Oh, I see what you mean. So if someone's relying on this for like their information, they're going to end up with,
A very, very limited understanding.
yeah, and potentially like a really skewed understanding of,
Yeah.
like a huge GE topic.
Right. And that raises the question, how do we make sure that AI tools, especially powerful and accessible ones like this, are giving people balanced, unbiased information?
Right. Because
A big deal.
it's a huge GE deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of freaky to think about. Like, this powerful tool could be like leading people down a certain path without them even knowing.
Right. That's the whole thing with bias, right? Like
Yeah.
it can be so sneaky.
Totally.
You don't even realize it's happening, and it's changing how you see things.
So speaking of different ways of seeing things, you mentioned the comments on Gupta's article,
Oh yeah.
and like people had some strong opinions, huh?
Oh yeah, definitely. Lots of different perspectives, which is interesting.
Yeah, so what were some of the like the key takeaways from that?
We had some people like Igor Novikov, who was, I guess, less worried about the bias itself and more
Hmm.
just like freaked out that a Chinese company had made something this good.
Wait, really? So he's coming at it from like a...
Yeah, more of a geopolitical angle.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, like he's even suggesting that, down the line, DeepSeek might just flat out tell users that like Taiwan belongs to China.
That's a pretty big statement.
It is, but it kind of highlights the whole anxiety around,
Yeah,
China's growing influence in tech.
totally, totally. Okay, so what about other commenters?
So then you've got Fabio Matricardi, and he's kind of pushing back on the whole, AI should be objective thing.
Right.
He's like, hey, all humans are biased.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
Right. Like we all have our own experiences, our own baggage that shapes how we see the world.
Absolutely. So is he saying that AI can't be any different?
Kinda, yeah. He's basically questioning if other AI models are actually like better just because they're more quote unquote politically correct.
Hmm. That's a good point.
Right? Like who decides what's correct? And he even says, don't use DeepSeek like an encyclopedia.
Okay, so he's saying it might be more likely to like reflect certain views instead of just giving you,
Pure facts.
yeah, pure facts. So it's not just a black and white,
But
biased, unbiased. It's like,
way more nuanced.
yeah, okay, interesting. What else? What else do people say?
Oh, there was Umar AGHA, and he was saying, this isn't just a China thing.
Okay.
He brought up Western AI models, saying they have their own biases too. Like he mentioned the Israel-Palestine conflict.
Right. So he's saying this is like a bigger,
Systemic issue.
yeah, systemic issue with how we develop AI in general.
Exactly. He even calls the whole article like an Indian cope,
Oh, wow.
like suggesting Gupta's maybe letting his own, nationalistic feelings get in the way.
So the comments are basically like a mini version of,
The whole AI bias debate,
yeah,
it's messy.
it is.
And I think it shows that we need to be having like way more nuanced conversations about this stuff. It's not just about labeling something biased or unbiased.
Right.
It's about understanding all the different ways bias can show up,
Yeah.
how it gets there in the first place,
Mm-hmm.
and how it affects people who are actually using these tools.
Okay, so let's like bring this back to our listener for a sec. Like, if you're out there thinking about using DeepSeek, what should you keep in mind?
I mean, first off, just be aware, right?
Yeah.
Like any AI, even DeepSeek, it's a product of the people who made it and the data it learned from. It's not some like magical objective truth machine.
So go into it with a little bit of like,
Skepticism.
yeah, skepticism. Don't just believe everything it tells you, right?
Exactly. Like double check stuff.
Yeah.
Look at different sources, especially if it's a topic that's, controversial or sensitive.
So basically, be a smart user.
Be a smart user, yeah.
Yeah. Don't just take things at face value.
Exactly. And remember, DeepSeek's still evolving, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like the model we're talking about today might be different tomorrow as developers try to fix these bias problems.
So it's not about like writing DeepSeek off completely. It's just,
Being aware
yeah, being aware of the limitations.
and being willing to think critically.
Yes. Love that. So I think this whole conversation also highlights the importance of like, talking about AI ethics more broadly.
Oh, for sure.
Right? Like the more AI becomes part of our lives, the more we need to have these like open and honest discussions about the potential downsides.
And the safeguards, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like with any powerful technology.
Comes with responsibility.
Yeah, we got to use it responsibly, be mindful of the consequences.
And we as users, we have a role to play too, right?
Yeah.
Like holding developers accountable, pushing for more fairness and transparency in these systems.
Yes, 100%. So here's a question for you and for everyone listening. What if instead of aiming for like perfect objectivity, which maybe isn't even possible, we focused on making AI's biases transparent?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Right. Like what if it came with a nutrition label
Empathy.
almost
Yeah.
that tells you, hey, based on the data I was trained on or the people who made me, I might lean this way or that way.
Right. Like full disclosure.
Full disclosure, so you can, take the information with a grain of salt.
Exactly. You know what you're dealing with.
That's such a cool idea. Like, it's like knowing that a news source leans a certain way politically, you can still read it, right? But at least you're going in with...
Eyes open.
Yeah. You know what to expect, and you can kind of like adjust how much you trust it.
Exactly. It's about, instead of pretending AI is this perfect, all-knowing,
Yeah.
unbiased oracle, we just admit, hey, it's a tool built by humans. It's going to have some of our,
Quirks. Yeah.
quirks, biases, all that.
Yeah. Right. And it's on us to like use it wisely, be critical, you know,
Absolutely.
question things, look for different perspectives.
That's how we navigate this whole, like, AI world, right?
Yeah.
Informed, empowered.
Yes. Love it. Okay, so to wrap up our deep dive into DeepSeek powerful stuff, affordable, definitely causing a lot of buzz right now.
Hmm.
Mehul Gupta's article really brought this whole AI bias thing to the forefront.
Yeah. And particularly its handling of China-related information.
Right, and all the comments like really show just how complex this whole thing is.
Oh, yeah. People are worried about censorship, about biased narratives, about the ethics of it all,
Mm-hmm.
but also acknowledging that, bias exists everywhere, even in human-made information.
Exactly. It's not about saying DeepSeek is bad, don't use it. It's more about,
Using it with awareness.
yeah, knowing its limits.
Being cautious.
Exactly. And it really underlines like how important it is to keep having these conversations about AI ethics.
Oh, absolutely. As AI gets more and more woven into our lives, we have to talk about
Yeah.
the risks, the safeguards, all of it.
With great power comes great responsibility, as they say, right?
We do.
And it's up to all of us as users to like hold the developers accountable,
Mm-hmm.
push for fairness, push for transparency in these systems.
Couldn't agree more.
So to our listeners out there, if you're using DeepSeek, remember, it's a tool, a powerful tool, but still a tool.
Use it wisely.
Be aware of its limitations and never, ever stop questioning what it tells you.
Never stop thinking for yourself.
Yes. That's the key takeaway here. The more we talk about this stuff, the better we can shape the future of AI.
Make it work for us, not the other way around.
Well said. This deep dive has given me so much to think about. I think I'm going to be double checking all my sources from now on.
Good idea.
Just to be safe,
Yeah.
But until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and as always, stay awesome.